Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is Levi, and it has been quite a minute since I've seen you guys. It's been a hot minute. I would say probably like 4 to 5 months at this point since I have done a video. And the reason for that is school. Why did that take me so long to think of? I've been a full-time student. I'm in 5 classes this semester, and I also have a part-time job. So quite literally every day I am not in school, I am at work. I have school Monday through Thursday, and I have work Friday through Sunday. I do not get days off anymore. And it's all manageable, but it just means that I can't do anything else. However, I am still reading, and in fact, this video was filmed, I am not even kidding, in June. This part is being filmed at the end of October, probably around the time you're seeing this. I did film this video over the course of like 2 months because it took me around 2 months to read everything. And yeah, so if the last clips of me, my hair is different shades and different lengths, babes, that is why. I think I filmed the first clip in June. For this one, I decided to hop on the reading TikTok books. So I was not interested in a lot of the traditional TikTok romances. They're not it for me. I need something a little spicy, I love. So I decided to do dark romance. Historically, I actually am a lover of dark romance. I do have my own like contingencies and likes and dislikes within this genre, but I do think it's a very interesting genre to explore. There are so many conversations happening on book Twitter recently because of the dark romance genre, and I definitely understand if this is not the genre for you. If you are sensitive to a lot of bad topics, I definitely would not recommend this genre for you because it is an outlet for a lot of different things. And I'm not even going to try to group them or list them because there's like so many different things that it's an outlet for, both good and bad. And I think there's a lot of nuance when it comes to any type of media consumption, but especially when there are taboo topics involved. So you're going to see my thoughts on 5 popular TikTok books. Now, you might be wondering, how did I quantify or qualify these as popular TikTok books? For the first book, really what I did was like type dark romance recommendations into TikTok, and I read the most common ones. The first book I read was Corrupt by Penelope Douglas, which was by far the most recommended dark romance book. The next one after that, which was also like absolutely the second most recommended, was Hunting Adeline by H.D. Carlton. The next one was Hooked by Emily McIntyre. The one after that, The Never King by Nikki St. Croix. And then the one that was not a popular read, or that I only saw mentioned a few times, was Wrong Way Home by K.A. American, because I needed something off the beaten path. I needed to try a gay couple, and you guys will see how it worked out for me. Those were all the 5 books that I read for this video. I really liked doing this video, even if it took me forever to edit and forever to actually get through because I had to read 5 books. It was a really enjoyable experience, and I definitely would do this again. Maybe not with this genre, although I would continue to read this genre. A lot of the videos I watch now are experimental reading videos. I think they're very exciting, and I think they're really fun to do. So if you guys like this, just let me know. These videos have historically not done well on my channel, which makes me a little sad because I put so much work into them, and I love them so much. But ultimately, my channel's up to me, and I will be doing more of these, so sorry, soldier. But without further ado, let's get into this video so you guys can see what I thought of these books. Hello. I have officially finished Corrupt by Penelope Douglas. Also, BTW, we are in my kitchen and I am making a crab cucumber salad. But I don't have a second camera, so you won't be able to see me cutting, sorry. So, I finished Corrupt, and I think it surprises no one that I'm giving it 1 star. This was genuinely not a fun experience. It took me over a month to read this book because of how little fun I was having. So basically, this book is about a girl named Erica. And she lives in this town called Thunder Bay. Her family's very wealthy. Her father has passed away, and the money he left her is in a trust. And her neighbors, who are also very close family friends, are like looking over it, and she's dating the younger brother, but she's always been really attracted to the older brother, Michael. Michael is a few years older than herself, and she is in her sophomore year of college. And all we really know at the beginning is that Erica has done something to put Michael and his friends in jail. And they're out of jail and they want revenge on her. And so they're going to get their revenge. Michael and his friends are like known for being annoying or like terrorizing the town on Devil's Night, which actually I was really surprised to see in this book. So I don't know what town it's supposed to be emulating. I would guess somewhere on the East Coast, but Devil's Night is exclusively something that happens in Detroit, Michigan. So I was kind of surprised to see that outside this book. I think a lot of people don't know what it is, but that's literally just because it's exclusive to Detroit. Like, it's a Detroit tradition as far as I know. I don't think it happens anywhere outside of Michigan that I know of. So definitely interesting to see that in a book. However, this book was not good. It was almost 550 pages. It was 540 pages long. Still don't really know for what reason. It was just way too long with nothing happening. So we get flashbacks from when Erica put them in prison, like what happened the night they went to prison, and then her life now, and Michael is like making her life a living hell, etc., etc. But you can kind of tell right from the beginning what happened and why they were put in jail. And this book was really, I mean, it was giving Wattpad 100%, to the point where I thought I could have read this book for free on Wattpad in 2012. Like, that's how much Wattpad this book was giving. It was a little ridiculous. And I was on Wattpad. I was a Wattpad girly back in 2012. And, like, the tropes in this book were very 2012. The first one being Erica is obviously not like other girls. She likes punk music. She wears Converse. She doesn't like to put on a lot of makeup, but she's still conventionally attractive. And the book does this thing that's this is what gave the most Wattpad vibes, is that in 2012 to 2013, that era, I don't know if it's still done today. I don't read Wattpad anymore, because back in my day, it was shameful. Being on that site was shameful, and now y'all are just out there admitting that you read Wattpad for fun. I literally wish that was the energy when I was using Wattpad, because I was so ashamed. I didn't tell anybody. I literally did not tell one person. But anyway, it was a big trend to say every single song that the character could hear or was listening to. And that's exactly what happened in this book. Of course, she shit on Taylor Swift, who I'm not a Taylor Swift fan, but, you know, I mean, her music's not, like, bad, and also music is subjective. But anyway, she of course shit on Taylor Swift, and literally the list of musicians was so funny. But anyway, anytime a song came on, it had to be a specific song. So you could probably make a playlist for this book, but instead of saying like punk music or rock music or metal music or whatever, she would go and be like, it's this song from Smashing Pumpkins. I'm like, okay, and why did we need to know that information? Also, this book, like I said before, was just way too long. It was very boring, and nothing really happened that made it need to be 500 pages. I just felt like it was drawn out, and the ending was so frustrating. And this was by far the most recommended book on Book Talk for dark romance. I would consider this a dark romance. One of our main characters is Michael. It's like a dual POV between Michael and Erica, both first person, which is definitely a trend I've noticed in dark romance and in, you know, romance in general, I guess. I actually did like the dynamic between Erica and Michael, because even though he wanted to like terrorize her or whatever, I mean, the friends went a little too far, but even though he wanted to terrorize her, he never wanted to like physically hurt her. However, there were a lot of things I didn't like. There's a reason why this book is a 1 star. Okay, so one of the big parts of the book is that all of his friends, so all of Michael's friends, except for Michael, went to prison that night for various different charges. One of his friends went to prison for statutory rape. Very serious crime. And early in the book, Michael tries to say, like, he tries to say that it wasn't a crime. He's trying to, like, downplay what happened. So basically, his friend Damon went in, and it was Devil's Night, and they were all pulling pranks, and I guess he was mad at the mayor or whatever. And he went in, he's fully grown, I shouldn't say fully grown, but he's graduated from high school at the very least. And he has sex with a 15-year-old girl. And apparently, like, we don't really get to know what happened on the inside, but she probably consented to it, like didn't fight it or anything. But she's a child and children cannot consent to anything, and that constitutes statutory rape. And one of our main characters in the book on page is like, oh, well, it wasn't really rape because she didn't say no, like she wanted it and they knew each other, whatever. Like, that is a 19-year-old man with a 15-year-old girl. That's 100% a crime. And I really did not like that the author was trying to make it not a crime. That's a fucking crime. Sorry, that is a crime. Actually, not sorry. It's a fucking crime. And I really did not like that the author was trying to say that it wasn't. Because she wanted it. Like, she's 15. She can only consent with other people her age. And that made me really pissed off because it wasn't challenged at any other time in the book, and I was like, that's disgusting, you're disgusting for writing that, hated that part. Moving on, so Rika ends up moving to, like, it's like the fictional equivalent of New York City. She moves to Meridian City to go to school, and in her building, there's this girl named Alex who is a sex worker. And literally Alex, every time she comes on screen, she's like, yeah, I keep my job on the DL because I have a lot of, like, powerful clients, but I don't really mind it. She, like, likes her job, and she didn't necessarily choose to do that job, but she likes it, and it, like, pays her bills and stuff. So she's like, okay, fine, yeah, I do it. And every single time she comes on screen, Rika's like, I can't imagine what happened in her life to make her choose this path, and I've never had to make the hard choices she's had. And the whole time Alex is there, she's just kind of like, yeah, I mean, it's just like her job. She treats it professionally. She doesn't hate it or love it. It's just like her job. And every single time she comes on screen, Rika's like, I can't imagine the hardships she must have faced to prostitute her body in this way. I'm like, girl, can you calm down? It's just like seen like she was fucking like trafficked into it. And the whole time the actual character is like, actually it's fine. And like that dichotomy was part weird because like our main character couldn't shut the fuck up and just believe that somebody wants to be in sex work, and just part funny because the dichotomy between the two characters was kind of funny. Alex is constantly put down for being a sex worker, and it's a little frustrating just for her character and for sex workers in general. Just this book has some very archaic ways of thinking that I did not personally agree with. I still don't agree with it, so you know, Penelope Douglas and I are not getting along at this very moment. And also I found out while reading that this book is like part 1 of 6 in a series. I obviously will not be continuing, but like, holy shit. 1 of 6. That's too many. Also, okay, one thing that I really didn't like is that this book features a lot of sexual assault savior points. So Erica is a woman, last time we checked in. And every single time she's in danger or they need a plot point to put her in danger, Penelope Douglas puts her in sexual danger as well, like at risk of being assaulted. And I really don't get this. Like, yes, it is to prove like a hero plot point or whatever, but literally every single time Erica is in danger, she's also in danger of being assaulted. And I didn't see the need for that. It's just there's so many times where it happens. I'm like, and why? We get that this guy is a villain. We get that that's probably a possibility when a man kidnaps a woman, but I just don't know why it had to be reinforced exactly so many times within the novel. We have scenes with that happening 1, 2, 3, 4, almost, I would think almost 6 times. And it's just frustrating, man. It didn't enhance the story in any way. It was literally just used as a hero plot for Michael so he could like swoop in and save her. And it's just like, yeah, he can do all of that without the threat of sexual violence every single time. Like, we get it. After the first time, you kind of get that that's a possibility that can happen. So it's just kind of like, shut up. And then, so basically Michael is like making her life a living hell, whatever. And But it's kind of like mutual. They mutually like each other, whatever. They're doing this back and forth. And at one point they have a party and Michael is not talking to Rika and she's getting a little annoyed by that. But he's like, you can't make out with any other guys because, you know, protective. Oh, also he's 6'6". He's a basketball player. So of course he has to be 6'6" and she's like 5'4". So anyway, all of this is happening and Alex is at the party and Rika is like, oh, you said I can't make out with any guys. And she goes and she's like, Alex, I will pay you to make out with me or whatever. And she does it just to make Michael jealous. And it's giving straight guy who watches lesbian porn. Like, that's what that was giving. And it just, again, and that's the only instance of Sapphic being in the book. And it's just to make a straight man jealous. I'm like, can lesbians not be fetishized by straight people for like 1 second? And the answer to that was no. But then, okay, we skip forward. Michael like gets all upset that she's making out with Alex, whatever. And he goes up to the room that they're making out in and he like assaults Alex. He grabs her arm and like throws her out and is just like really rough with her. And I felt so bad. Alex was my favorite character, by the way, if you couldn't tell. But I just felt so bad for her because it was Rika who asked her if she would do all of that. And then Rika lets her be like physically manhandled by this random man. And I felt so bad for her. I was like, babe, you were just doing your job. Like, you did not deserve this treatment. I actually thought the ending of the book was pretty satisfactory. And if you didn't want to like read on, it was actually a good place to stop. But okay, so the main conflict, right, is so Michael is like systematically trying to ruin Erica's life. And this will all be spoilers. Sorry if you don't want spoilers. But one of the things he does, so Erica's mom has a drug addiction and has kind of been not present since her father died and she just can't take the grief. And so one thing they do is they kind of like kidnap Erica's mom and put her in rehab. But because in rehab you're not allowed to have a phone, Erica can't reach her and she doesn't know that she's in rehab. So her mom becomes unattainable. Then they burn down her house. That was like a big step. So all of these guys like burn down her house. And then, okay, so the big crux of the book, right, is that Erica's trust is being looked over by her, like the family friend's father, like Michael's dad. And he has power of attorney. So he can make like investments in the trust and et cetera, right? Okay, so the big crux of the book, and I know this is my criminal justice minor, making things way too complicated for me in all the law classes I've had to take. But the big like plot twist, the big gotcha of the book is that Michael goes to his dad and is like, let me control the trust, sign over power of attorney to me, and I will make sure like Erica's money is okay, whatever. Because her dad is like, sure, whatever, you're going to take over the business maybe. He does it. And I was reading the book and I was like, what? So pro tip, Penelope Douglas. I know this is so nitpicky and it's like a dark romance book, but like it's also supposed to be realistic. And realistic, but please do one modicum of research into what you're writing, because here's the thing. You can't just sign over power of attorney. By the way, the person who owns the trust, so technically Erica, that's the person who signs over power of attorney, either her or her mother. And if it's only left to Erica, it's just Erica. The person who has power of attorney can't just give it to somebody else, even if it's his own son. That is very, 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 very illegal. And Michael's like, I've thought of the perfect plan. Like, I know exactly what I'm going to do to get back at her. And he does this thing that literally could never happen in a million years and no court ever would abide by. And I was reading and I know I was getting way too hung up on the legalities of like a stupid dark romance, but I was so pissed off. Yeah, I don't know why that made me like I was so hung up on the legality when I shouldn't have been. But that being like the big, aha, gotcha, and like Michael being painted as somebody who was so smart for thinking of something that absolutely would not work was just so fucking funny to me for no reason. Yeah, this was not my favorite. And I think that Penelope Douglas might need a little bit of an editor as well, because there was like a lot of spelling mistakes and grammar mistakes in this book too. But it is self-published, but whatever, you should still pay for an editor. Also, throughout the entire book, instead of saying widened, like her eyes widened, his eyes widened, whatever, she would just say that their eyes rounded. I had never heard that before this book, and it was so funny to me. Like, why are you saying it like that? They widen their eyes. Your eyes are already round. What are you rounding? Anyway, this was the absolute #1 dark romance recommendation. It was just like everybody's where to start with dark romance and whatever, and it was an absolute 1 star for me. There were no redeeming qualities whatsoever. I don't think I would ever pick up another Penelope Douglas based on this book. So we're starting good. We're starting great, actually, because if this is the bar, it can only go up. I really hope it can only go up. But based on this, like, if this had been my introduction as a whole to dark romance, I would have ditched the fucking genre. And the bar is in hell. The bar is literally in hell right now, and hopefully it can only go up from here. So the next book I will be reading is Haunting Adeline. Forgot the author's name, and I will check up on you guys when I finish that one. This is a salad. Literally nothing special. It's just crab and cucumber. But it's pretty good. I put a spicy little dressing on it. So anyway, gotta go eat that now. Okay, friends, family, and those undecided. I have finally finished the second most recommended dark romance book on Kindle Unlimited, aka Book Talk. And oh my god, it was so long. It was longer than Corrupt. Look at my notes. Look at, yeah, this is how long they are. So the book is Haunting Adeline by H.D. Carlton. I did not like it. I gave it a 2 star, and it was 538 pages compared to Corrupt's 504. So over 30 pages longer. Again, for no reason. For what reason? None. This was by far the second most recommended book on Dark Romance Book Talk that I could find. And for the life of me, I don't know why. Like, I don't know. I simply don't know why people enjoy this book. I mean, I guess I do know, but both Corrupt and this book are not my brand of dark romance. I want the I hate everybody but you trope. I do not want the darkness pointed at the protagonist, okay? It's just, I don't like it. Also, these books, I'm starting to notice, follow a formula in a couple different ways. Not in the writing, because anything can happen in a dark romance, but in the way that the description is written on Kindle Unlimited. For these 2 books, it has been, the description has been, I am the blank or whatever, and then it lists like stuff that they've done, and then another point of view enters, it's like, I am the whatever. So for this one, it was the manipulator, was Adeline, who is an author. Adeline was a self-published author, so yeah, a little self-inserty, but she's the manipulator, and it was like, the manipulator, blah, 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 blah. And then the other guy is very silent, and he's called the Shadow, so it's like, the Shadow, blah, 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 blah. And that's exactly how it was for Corrupt. A, to indicate that there are 2 points of view, and B, just like, the description doesn't tell you what the book is actually about. And I don't like it. But yeah, I clearly had a lot to say about Haunting Adeline. So let's get into it. So the first thing I noticed in this book is that it really suffers so bad from the black best friend trope. The best friend didn't even need to be there. She served almost no purpose to the story other than having skills that the main character needs. Severe black best friend trope suffering in this book. Disappointed, but not surprised. Basically, the plot of this book is that our main character, Adeline, has moved into her grandmother's house, in which it's a manor that she inherited in Seattle, Washington, because her grandmother has passed away. And so she moves into this house, and not long after moving in, she discovers a diary from her great-great-grandmother. No, she discovers a diary from her great-grandmother who was murdered. And not only does she become obsessed with trying to find her grandmother's murderer, who had a stalker, and that's who everybody think killed her, she also realizes that she's got her own very possessive stalker, and she might be starting to fall for him, just like her great-grandmother. So there's kind of a mixture of things going on here. And our second main character is Zaid. Horrible name. Horrific name. Zaid is the stalker. He is also a mercenary type guy, but he's kind of like the Batman of this universe, right? He has a bunch of hacker skills, he's very wealthy, and he is intent on taking down every single sex trafficking ring. So we got like a good guy, bad guy thing going on here. But at the same time, he's like also stalking this random lady. And so that's pretty much the plot of the book. One of the things that I immediately noticed is that Addie, or Adeline, is just not like other girls. Other girls may be obsessed with makeup, But she puts on her Vans. Yeah, she puts on her Vans. And she goes to haunted houses. So she's not like other girls. Also, she repaints the manor. So the manor is in disrepair. And Addie is restoring it. And she paints everything black. Like, everything. I was making note of everything she says is black. And the walls, the fireplace, the floors, and the kitchen are all black. I don't know, just the all black was so... I'm not like other girls. I have Vans, and I go to haunted houses. That's literally how this house felt. And you know what? It made her happy, though. It made her happy. It just made me really pressed. I will say that the writing was a step up from Corrupt. It was not Wattpad quality. So, I mean, there's that. There is very blatant sexism from Zaid in this book. And he's also trying to, like, help women. So, I really don't get why this book was so sexist at its core, both in the actual sex trafficking ring and with one of our main characters. So, Zaid has a major hero complex, like, insane hero complex that I found very difficult to deal with throughout the novel, but he does say some things that were so gross to me. Like, there's such blatant sexism. Sorry, I'm reading from my notes because I wrote down the quotes, but every time a man does something not deemed like masculine enough, he's immediately turned into a woman. And by Zaid, he's characterized as a woman. So there's this one guy who Addie is hooking up with and Zaid doesn't like it, whatever. But the guy comes out onto the porch to figure out, like, who's knocking at Addie's door. And he kind of gets, like, a bad feeling. And so he kind of backs down from investigating. And Zaid says he grows a vagina. Like, gender essentialism is a big thing in straight written romance. And I'm not asking every straight person to know the ins and outs of the complexity of gender. But was overwhelming in this book, I should say. And the fact that it's just so blatantly sexist at this point. And also, one of his close friends is, like, angry over something, and Zaid says he sighed like an angry teenager on her period. The fuck does that even mean? Literally, as a teenager who got a period, what the fuck does that mean? I would like it. As a woman writing this book, what does that mean? It's just a sigh, babe. It's just a sigh. The patriarchy has this author in a chokehold. And it just is repeated throughout the book. And it's just such a, like, corely sexist thing. Also, like, she smells like a woman. He smells like a man. Da-da-da. Like, what the fuck does that mean, babe? What does that mean? So, yeah, this book was really rampant with it. And I really didn't appreciate it as I was reading. It just added to my displeasure of reading this book. So, like I said, part of the book is Adeline is trying to figure out her great-grandmother's murder. And her great-grandmother was named Gigi. And parts of the book are interspersed with Gigi's diary entries. Now, I think that plot point was very interesting, but it was entirely unneeded. If you took out Gigi's murder, literally nothing in this book would have changed, and it would have been about 50 to 75 pages shorter. And we're supposed to be making a parallel between Gigi and her stalker and Adeline and her stalker, but there are no parallels drawn. There's absolutely no parallels. At first, I thought when the author brought this up that for whatever reason, like, the stalker was going to be immortal or something, like there was going to be some magic, and she was going to be like a doppelganger of her great-grandmother, and he was going to, like, fall in love with her, like a Vampire Diaries type beat, you know what I mean? But that was not the case. They were just regular humans who fell in love, and there was just really no, other than the fact that he was a stalker, there was no connection drawn to Gigi's life and Adeline's life. And once the case got resolved, there was no resolution really in the story for whatever else was going on. So it just felt like a completely different book, that plot line. There was no reason for it to be in this book, and there was no reason for it to be a plot line, because it literally does nothing. It doesn't do anything to develop the story, doesn't do anything to further the story. It's literally just there to take up space. And even though, again, it was interesting, it was unneeded, and you don't feel any satisfaction or conviction at solving the case because nothing is writing on her solving the case or not. There's no outcome to her solving it, you know? I just found it completely unnecessary, and yeah, I mean, I kind of wish it had been its own book, either Gigi's story or Adeline finding out who murdered her. I almost wish it had been like a side story, because it was just totally unneeded and was purely there to take up space. I would suggest skipping this portion, the rest of this portion, if you don't want to be spoiled for Hunting Adeline, but this is where we're going to be getting some spoilers out. So a big part of this book is that Zaid is like trying to, oh my god, such a fucking terrible name. He is trying to take out this sex trafficking ring, and that's based in the US, and that is being run by powerful senators and people in government and very wealthy men, essentially. One thing that this book does is it completely ignores the fact that there are men in sex trafficking rings as well. I just feel like the author did not do 1 second of research into sex trafficking, and as somebody who's had to take multiple criminal law classes, I feel like I know more than this author. And considering this author wrote an entire book dedicated to taking down sex trafficking rings, I shouldn't know more than this author. Like, she should have done a little bit of research, but I just feel like no research was done. Almost every person who was trafficked in this book is pretty in white. And honestly, that's not the fucking truth when it comes to sex trafficking. And in the United States does not always also mean kidnapping. In this book, human smuggling, human trafficking, and kidnapping are all the same thing, when they are all very different things. It's especially not kids being kidnapped in the grocery store and then sex trafficked. That is incredibly rare, especially when it comes to upper class kids who are pretty and white, because they will get a ton of media, national media. So that's not the target of most sex traffickers. And it's just very frustrating that absolutely no research was done on this sex trafficking ring before the author tried to make it a focal point of this book. Not to like go off on a rant, but I was not expecting a picture perfect depiction of sex trafficking. But this is like downright harmful representation of what it's actually like. It is so misleading and perpetuates a bunch of myths about sex trafficking. And honestly, I know it's just like a stupid little dark romance, but it's still harmful. Books do not exist in a vacuum, and it's still a very harmful portrayal of this very real thing. It's boiling down sex trafficking into harmful myths that don't exist, and you have a large audience, and you're just fear-mongering, and it's very frustrating. It deserves a little bit more research than what this author did. And like I said, I know this is dark romance. I'm not expecting picture perfect anything, but it's also perpetuating these harmful myths. You have a lot of readers. Again, books do not exist in a vacuum. So just didn't really love that portion of the novel. And then again, the men that Zaid are specifically going after are senators and governors, and they have a lot of power, and they are trafficking. They were like pedophiles, whatever. Yeah, terrible, awful. Like no doubt about it, this terrible, awful people. But they also do a satanic ritual, and it was giving like satanic panic. It was giving false memories. Like, I just like that era of therapy and psychology back in the 80s when people were like remembering their fathers to be serial killers and that never happened. Yeah. That's what it was giving. It was giving like satanic panic. And I really did not understand the need for the satanic ritual. So basically what happens is like if somebody wants to join this like group of very powerful men who share kids, like terrible, awful, they have to perform this ritual for new members where they kill a child. It's like a satanic cult, essentially. And I really did not understand that. Like, why not just have them be rich and powerful trafficking these kids? Because that already happens. We literally have evidence of that already happening. Rich and powerful men trafficking kids, or abusing kids. So I don't understand the need for the satanic ritual. At first, I thought it was going to be like a magic system, you know, where they actually gain something from the satanic ritual, but no. I just didn't understand the need for the satanic ritual when strong and powerful men abusing children is already disgusting and a very disturbing issue. So I saw no need for the satanic ritual. I honestly thought it was just stupid. And the book would have played out completely the same if it had not been a satanic ritual. Because honestly, it makes no sense for governors to be doing satanic rituals. Like, it makes zero sense. So I don't know why it was put in there when you could have just had them do things that they already do in the real world. It just added this whole layer of like nonsense, honestly. One more thing, there's a lot of back and forth between Addie and Zaid. She doesn't want to believe that she's like falling for her stalker, and she has a lot of mixed feelings about it. stuff like that. And this book is just way too long. It spent way too long on the back and forth of them getting together. Like 3/4 of the way through, they could have gotten together and progressed the relationship, or even half of the way she could have like admitted that she actually likes him. But they're like this close to actually getting together, and then Addie is like, no, I can't be in love with him. And it's just back and forth to the point where it's frustrating because you know that they're going to end up together anyway. So it's just like, can we move it along? Can we get a little faster, please? So that was just like a little frustrating on that end. I was very disappointed in this book. It was dark, but like not the way that I enjoy dark romance. Like it felt very like surface level dark. Like Zayd kept having to repeat, I'm a bad guy, I have no heart, instead of doing it through his actions. And he does like kill and torture people for a living, but I don't know, he just didn't actually seem like a bad guy. And he's not technically supposed to be a bad guy because he's like saving all of these women and children from trafficking rings, which is like very noble, but he has such a hero complex about it that you want to punch him in the face. So I don't know, like if you enjoyed this book, because again, I am in the minority for not liking this book. It's got a very high Goodreads rating. It's got a really high Amazon rating. I am in the minority for not liking this book, and the writing wasn't even that bad. It just a lot of the kinks and stuff like were not for me. But I genuinely don't know why people enjoyed this book. Like, I don't know what people see in the characters. I don't know what people see in the plot. And I really don't know what people see in the smut. So, if you like this book, if you're watching this video and you like this book, I genuinely want you to tell me why down in the comments. Like I've said before, books are subjective. They are works of art meant to be critiqued. And not everybody is going to like the same one. Unfortunately for me, this one was a total flop. And I gave it a 2 out of 5 stars. So, we will be going on to the next one now. Excuse the air conditioning noise in the background, but I'm actually going to do something that I never do, and that is DNF a book. I'm so close to finishing, and I've been stuck on this book for a week because I don't want to finish it. I don't care about it. It's bad. I know if I were to finish it, I would be giving this a 1 star. And it's only 265 pages, like by far one of the shortest books that I've read. And it's just not, I'm not loving it. So it is called Wrong Way Home by K.A. American, which is a pseudonym for 2 different writers. And this is just not good. This is about a guy named Colin. He is in his early 20s and he is studying to be a doctor, and he's just very predictable. He always takes the same way home. He always has the same routine. He just doesn't really do anything. So one day he decides, fuck it, I'm not going to be predictable this one day. I'm going to take a different way home. And he takes a different way home, gets lost, and ends up witnessing a murder. And the murderer obviously doesn't want to let him go, so he kidnaps Colin, and it becomes that kind of romance. But the more that I read this, the more I absolutely know this is written by a non-queer man. This just screams straight women writing gay men, and I can't take it. I just can't take it. I don't like it. I don't like the direction the story is going. I don't like the writing style. I think it's boring and it's overwritten, and the plot is bad. Literally every single time Colin should have an ounce of logic in him, it flies out the window, and it's terrible. Anyway, it's just very clear that, especially with the first sex scene, because I'm a decent way in. I have exactly 100 pages left, and I just know that doesn't matter what happens in these 100 pages, that I just am not going to like it. But the first sex scene, I think, happened 40 pages in maybe, and it just, oh, no. It was genuinely painful to read because this is 2 cis men, correct? There was not any lube involved, and I was like, no. Oh my god, no. And there was no preparation, and I was like, I need to leave. These people don't know how gay people work. Not at all. I wouldn't even be surprised if they said something homophobic. Also, this couple, or the people writing this book, the 2 women writing this book, is very clearly British. They use British terms. They use very clearly British English, and for whatever reason, this book is set in the United States. I don't get it. I'm sure that there is multiple places like this in rural England. I don't really understand why this has to take place in West Virginia. not really sure, especially because I thought it was British because the characters are so British and they talk very Britishly. It's not a word, but you know what I mean. But also they refer to high school as college and college as university, which is an extremely like European thing to do. We don't do that in America. Obviously, we call high school and college and or university. And I was like, oh yeah, we're in the UK. No, we're in West Virginia for some fucking reason. But like I'm on page 156 of 256 and I can't do this anymore. I am DNFing. It's just every single twist and turn that this book takes, I really dislike. I dislike it more than Corrupt. Because Corrupt, at least I could finish it. Yes, it was 500 pages of nonsense. Yes, it was stupid. Yes, the whole crux of the book was based on something that couldn't actually happen. But this one is just bad. Like, I have just nothing to say about it. I have no feelings about it. I just don't want to be reading it anymore. So even though I was kind of prepared to like stick it out for this video, I honestly, because I know how it's gonna end. It's gonna end with Colin staying with the murderer slash kidnapper, because that's how all of these end. And there's no other plot than that. There's no like mystery plot going on. There's no background plot going on really. There's just nothing. It's boring and it's stupid, and if I finished it, I wouldn't have anything better or nicer to say about it. Just a bit of a long-winded rant to say that I'm not finishing this and I'm DNFing it, even though I really didn't want to DNF any books for this video because it is an experimental video. But I just know that if I finish it, I'm not going to have anything nicer to say. I'm not going to have anything better to say about it. It's still going to be a 1 star. So the next book I read was Hooked by Emily McIntyre. This one was 330 pages, so a much more reasonable length. And this one is about a girl named Wendy. It is a retelling of Peter Pan, except Wendy falls for Hook, not Peter. And Peter's actually her father, which I was like, that's a little weird. She still has Michael as her brother, but like the other brother doesn't exist. There's Smee, there's other people, and we're in a modern setting. So Wendy's father isn't home very often. He owns this like plane company, and she's like this innocent daughter. She is 20, I think, at the beginning, or 19 or 20. Her brother is 15, 16. And her father just isn't home, so it falls on her to take care of her brother. She has a job, even though they're like billionaires, because of course. And one night after work, she goes to this club called the Jolly Roger, and there she meets Hook, who is basically like, he's like a mob boss. He's like mafia, essentially, and he just falls in love with her and does something he swore he'd never do, which is want to protect somebody. So Peter Pan retellings have never really been like my speed. They've never really been my super favorite. So I really thought I wasn't going to like this one. So color me surprised when I gave it a 4 out of 5. I thought that this was going to go exactly like Corrupt and Haunting Adeline, which I've already pushed from my memory because I don't want to remember one part about that book. I really thought that I was going to dislike every single book I read in this series. So I was very pleasantly surprised when I liked Hook. It does follow some cliches for the dark romance genre. So the description is, you know, Wendy is saying, I'm blah, 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 and then Hook is saying, I'm blah, blah, blah. That's the description. There is, like, Wendy is this innocent girl who's turned on by fear or whatever, which is a trend I've seen in the past couple of books. There's also, Hook is obviously, like, this big, bad, brooding guy. Wendy's this tiny little girl, you know, stuff like that. She's skinny, obviously, because you can't have anybody but skinny bitches be the protagonist of these stories. Like earlier, there's not a lot of diversity in these novels. These are mainly white authors writing for a white audience, and I have yet to find like a lot of diverse dark romance reads. There was some things wrong, which is why I gave it a 4 out of 5. There were things I didn't like, but I was pleasantly surprised by how much I enjoyed this. Like, genuinely, I really went in with really low hopes, which is probably why I enjoyed it so much. But I came out like, okay, girly, okay. And I really liked the pacing. I thought that the characters were well fleshed out. The plot was actually good and followable, and it wrapped up nicely. You know, we're not really there for the plot. It's like a background device. We are there for the romance and for Wendy and Hook falling in love. And so I didn't mind that the plot was like entirely solvable or predictable, because we're not there for the plot. We're there for the love story. And I thought that the love story was done really well. There was this big like miscommunication trope, which I really disliked, which probably gave the knockoff of a star. And essentially what happens like halfway through is that Hook is convinced that Wendy's father, Peter, has Wendy spying on him and like conspiring to kill him, because Peter is trying to take control of Hook's town. And Wendy knows nothing about her father's like nefarious dealings or whatever, but there's just too many coincidences. So he gets paranoid and he kidnaps her and holds her hostage. And she's like, why are you doing this? Like, I don't want to be held hostage. Like, I don't have anything against you. Why are you doing this to me? And then they re-fall in love after that situation is cleared up. What I liked about this book, and what I think my niche is that the darkness of our dark character was not aimed at the light character. So my problem with Corrupt and with Hunting Adeline is that that dark character, while doing like dark things in the book to other people, is just unabashedly mean to the main character. And I can't stand that. I need you to be nice to me. So when they were like falling in love and there was no chemistry because they were just mean to each other all the time, I'm like, why am I here? So what I liked about this was that Hook's like darkness was about keeping like the town in check, and he's like a drug dealer or whatever, so he's also trying to keep drugs going. Like, obviously not a good person. He exercises some physical liberties against people who have hurt him, and let's just say he tests the limitations of a person's body. And that's essentially what happens, and it's aimed towards other people, but he has a soft spot for Wendy, and that's what I like. So that was, I think, more my brand of this like dark romance. I felt that the writing was more up to par. You know, I said that Hunting Adeline was like a step above Corrupt, which is 100% Wattpad writing. This, I felt like, was more commercials, is more what you would find on a shelf. Obviously, I don't think this brand would ever really super make it to a Barnes & Noble shelf, just because there's so many outright moral issues with this type of romance that it's historically been pretty self-published in the extremes, and I read like the extremes, so I don't think this would ever hit a shelf, but maybe if it got popular enough. But it is a little bit more commercial. There's a little bit more structure. There is more, I should say more, it feels like this writing is more sophisticated and more comfortable in itself, rather than feeling like a little fledgling. Like Corrupt feels like a 13-year-old wrote it. It feels like I went back in time and my 13-year-old self wrote it. Yep. Yeah, it does. And this didn't feel like that. This felt like an actual adult person writing for an adult audience. And all of our characters that are falling in love are adults. There's like a bit of an age gap. Wendy's in her early 20s, but she feels like an adult. She doesn't feel like a child. And that's what I really liked, because Adeline is supposed to be an adult. She's like in her 30s, I think, late 20s, early 30s, and she feels like a child. Like her actions and stuff make her seem like a teenager. So that's what I really liked about Hooked. There was still like some cringy parts. There was a lot of like the main character being like, the main character's name is James, and there's a lot of him being like, oh, I am bad, like I've done all these bad things and you should fear me because I'm this like bad, vicious guy. And I'm like, shut the fuck up. Let's just actually do something bad then. Like there's this part where he's like, but I'm James Hook and you should fear me, and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, okay, then actually do something worth being feared. Okay. And I mean, then he did. So I think that other than that like little cringy part, this book was pretty solid. I was very surprised that I got a 4 out of 5 out of this book. I really was not expecting it. I thought it was like a cute, fun little read. Is it going to be my favorite book of the year? No. But is it a good book? Probably not, but it's fun. I mean, but it wasn't like literary genius, but it was a fun, good little book, which is something that I really didn't expect out of this video. I really expected to give all these books like 1 or 2 stars, and was very surprised that this one was not 2 stars. So there's that. Also, do you hear that in the background? No, you don't, because I turned off the air conditioning for you, so you're welcome. So with that being said, we are going to get on to the next book. Okay, bye. We are officially on the last book of this series, and it is again a Peter Pan retelling. Again, not something I expected. What I did for this portion was I had about 6 options that I didn't know which one to go with. I had pulled so many options from TikTok, ones that I'd seen multiple recommendations for. And the ones that I have read previously, besides the gay one, because I needed a break, which did not turn out well for me, were the 3 that I saw the most recommended, which was Corrupt, Hunting Adeline, and Hooked. So I read all of those, and then I did the 4th, and then for the 5th, I had a couple that had shown up a few times, like 3 or 4 times, versus like the 10 to 12 that I'd seen from the first 3. And I started collecting them, and I didn't really know how to choose. So I texted Caitlin, channel link down below, and I was like, hey, do you want to pick the book that I read next and last for the video? And she said, okay. And she randomly, I didn't give her any context. I literally just sent her the covers. And I was like, yeah, do you want to pick what I'm reading based on the covers? And there was one that I was like, please don't pick it. Please don't pick it. I really don't want to read it. And I didn't know anything really about it other than it was another Peter Pan retelling. And I hated the cover. And I didn't know how long it was, like really what the story was, whatever. So I was just like, please, it looks like so cringy. Please don't make me read it. Guess which one she fucking picked? Yeah, she picked The Never King, which was the one where it was like, oh, please don't pick it because I hate the cover. And she was like, I think that cover's so interesting. And we are literally the definition of opposites attract. I don't know what to tell you. I am here for the monster boys and the murder thriller gals, and she is always reading historical or fantasy. And I just think it's funny. So she picked that one, and I was like, okay. And so I downloaded it on my Kindle, and I read it, and I gave it a 4 out of fucking 5 stars. Why am I even doubting her choices at this point? She knows fucking best. I'm an idiot for even thinking that she was wrong. So this is The Never King by Nikki St. Croix. It was 194 pages, so it was the shortest out of all of the ones that I read, and I went through it so fast. Not only that, this was the only book where I read the sequel, that I liked it so much that I read the sequel. The Never King follows Winnie Darling, who is I think the great-granddaughter of Wendy Darling, and all she knows about her family line is that all of the women on their 18th birthday go missing for a little bit, and then they come back wrong. They come back kind of a little insane, and she is terrified of being taken because she doesn't want that to happen to her after growing up with her mother, who is mentally unstable and needed care and just didn't have care, and she ended up like moving around a lot. And anyway, the 18th birthday comes and she gets stolen to Neverland by Peter, who is this like immortal being, and his lost boys, who are also immortal in their own ways. And I fell for the totally predictable choice, and I really liked this one. Again, I think I'm starting to carve out my taste in dark romance, because again, the darkness was never really pointed towards her. Yes, he was like intimidating. Peter and Winnie aren't like the main focus. Actually, all of the boys get good screen time, and I really like that because it fleshed out in 194 pages. It had a good plot, predictable but also good. It fleshed out the world. It fleshed out like 6 different characters, and it was, I mean, the smut was good. I mean, is that not why we're here? I didn't give it a full 5 because there were still some things I disliked. Like one of the, I guess I can call it a kink, one of the kinks in here is something that I really, really disliked, and I had to skip over a lot of those scenes. But I liked like her romance with all of the boys, and I was like, yes. And one thing I really loved about this book is that it is pro slut to its core. So our main character, Winnie, was abused by her mother, and she doesn't like, it wasn't like malicious abuse. It was her mother is mentally unwell and doesn't really know what she's doing. It doesn't have like the capacity to take care of her daughter. So she resents her mother, but she doesn't hate her because she knows that her mom was like very unwealthy and very poor and didn't really have another choice and was trying to protect her. So she just wants to like protect her mom, even though her mom put her through all that stuff. So actually it was kind of like a good conversation on that too, not gonna lie. In this universe, there's like Neverworld, right? Which is an island, and on this island there is the death shadow and the life shadow. And Peter, who had the life shadow, which is tied to the life of the island, has lost it. It's been stolen, and all he knows is that the Darlings have it, but he doesn't know where. So he like goes into their brains and tries to find out where. It's this whole big conspiracy that ends up being like part of the book, and I don't want to ruin it for you. I don't have to like spoil it to talk about why I like this book. So then there's also Vane, who's one of the Lost Boys, and he has the Death Shadow from his island, and he is the predictable character I fall for. So in here, there's that trope where the character is like mean and standoffish until the main character is in trouble or in mortal peril, and then they're the first one to help. That's like one of my favorite romance tropes. Is it healthy? Probably not. But I love it anyway. I love it so much. So there's basically the scene where all of the boys are with Winnie, and Winnie gets hurt, and the one who reacts like the harshest, the one who like really tries to get to her is Vane, aka the person who's been like the least interested or the most standoffish with her. And I'm like, yes, and yes. So I really didn't expect Peter Pan retellings to pull through in this video. I didn't expect to read 2. I really didn't expect them to be my favorite. And not only that, I read the sequel. So we're going to talk about it for a second. So bonus 6th book is I read the sequel, and the sequel was a bit longer, and it left off on a cliffhanger, on a really good cliffhanger, and I was really surprised again by how much I liked the sequel. It is a little evident that this was not heavily copy edited, because there are quite a few plot holes when it comes to the story and the world building, but I'm not here for that serious of a time. I'm here for a good time. And what did this book do? It gave me a good time. There's also like almost every character gets a point of view, which I didn't think was necessary, but it wasn't bad. And I like how much is fleshed out in that character and in that world with the point of view. Like in the second book alone, it's a little bit longer. It's like 200 and something pages. And there is plot. There's actual plot going on. Yes, it's predictable, but also I'm having a good time, so I don't really care. So The Never King came out in January of 2022. And was like a huge success because of TikTok and stuff. And I really made a point not to go on the TikTok of these authors because I don't want to see it. It's going to ruin my opinion of the book, and I don't want to see it. So that was the end of this like little experiment. I really didn't expect to walk away with 2 books that I actually enjoyed, and 1 book where I am awaiting the 3rd and final novel. So where do these books stand? So right at the bottom, we have No Way Home, which is the book I DNF'd. I think my review for this one is the shortest because I just had nothing to say. It was really short. It was like under 200 pages, and yet it felt like 400. And just the way it was written, I could so tell it was written by 4 straight women. So I didn't think I would hate anything more than Corrupt. I was proven wrong. And that one is on the bottom because I DNF'd. The next one, surprisingly in second and not first place, is Corrupt because I hated this. I have visceral feelings towards it. I really disliked the way that the dark romance was done. I disliked the writing. I disliked the characters. It was way too long, too much going on. No, 1 star. I gave this a 1 star. Do you know how much it takes me to give a book 1 star? A lot. And this was 1 star. The next one is Hunting Adeline. And this one I liked marginally better, but still a 2 star because I really hated Adeline. I hated her house. Her house would have done psychic damage to me. Her whole house was black. Like, you do you, girl. But I would be mentally unwell if I slept in that house. I also thought that the side plot about her grandmother and her stalker was completely unnecessary because it didn't parallel Adeline and her stalker literally at all. And the conclusion to that was not in any way related to the rest of the book. So I really think it was just a way to fill up pages. And I started reading the sequel, and she does the same thing in the next book where there's a side plot about this girl who I assume has been trafficked and is writing letters. So yeah, that one's number 3. Number 4, which I gave it 4. I went from a 2 out of 5 to a 4 out of 5. There was no 3s, which was really surprising to me. And that was Hooked, which I thought was really like probably the best written I've read so far. It was fast paced. The romance was okay. There were some kinks I didn't like. Don't like choking as a kink, and that was like pretty prevalent. So I didn't like that. But I thought it wrapped up well. I thought the plot was easy to follow, even if it was predictable. Whatever. And then the last one, which is The Never King, I gave it like a 4. I'll give it a 4.5. I'll give it that 0.5. Again, for it being the shortest, I thought I had the best world building, the best premise, the best character building, and the best plot in 194 pages. Nikki St. Crow, how do you do it, girl? And I actively read the sequel directly after. So I read this book and the sequel in the span of like 2 days. And it really consumed me. So this was by far the best one. So I do have another secret TBR planned that I am really excited to do. I've got the next 2 planned, actually. But if you want to see a sequel to this video, let me know, because it was really fun. This is the first like secret TBR that I really successfully finished. So I really enjoyed it. And it was super fun. And I would 100% do it again. And I just thought it was like a good time. So although there were books that I hated, okay, I thought that exploring this genre that I don't really explore that often, but like I think I've read most of this in fan fiction. Yeah, this is a fan fiction trope for me, but not actual like original works. So it was interesting and fun to explore this idea and these tropes in original content versus fan fiction. So I want to do this again, like a secret TBR. Like I said, I have the next 2 planned. But if you want to see my thoughts on the other books, dark romance books that I will be reading, just let me know. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you like this video, go ahead and give it a big thumbs up. If you want to see more from me, click that subscribe button. Any questions, comments, or concerns, go ahead and put that in the comments down below. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you soon with another video. Bye! You didn't see that.